red reflective triangles, a fully charged, properly rated fire extinguisher, and spare fuses for my truck. Next, coming back to front, the first thing my hand would touch is this seat belt. Mr. Examiner, I'm going to check my seat belt. It's not torn, cut, or frayed, latches, and releases properly. It gets put back on. Moving back to front, next thing I touch is this shifter. Mr. Examiner, I'm going to perform a safe start. Make sure my truck is in neutral. Make sure both of my brakes are set. Make sure my warning lights come on and go off. So now I'll depress the clutch and start my engine. Next thing I touch coming forward is the steering wheel. But since I'm going to go top to bottom, I'm going to start on the outside and go to this left mirror. So, Mr. Examiner, first I'm going to check my driver's side mirrors. Body mount secured, not cracked or broken, adjusted for me, the driver. Top to bottom, it's left to right. Next I'll check my windshields. Properly mounted secured, not cracked or broken, no illegal stickers. Checking my windshield wipers are properly mounted secured, not cracked or broken, they are pressed firmly against the glass. I will check my passenger side mirror. It is properly mounted secured, not cracked or broken. It is adjusted for me, the driver. I've done as far as I can to the right, I come back to the left. Now I'm going to get to the steering wheel because it's below everything else there. So now I'm going to check my city horn and my air horn. Next, I'm going to turn on my headlights so that I can check my high beam indicator, low beams, left turn signal, right turn signal. I'll check that my wipers are working, and I'll check that my washers are working. I'll shut the headlights off. I'll check that my four-way flashers are working. Now I'll go to my gauges. I'll check that my low pressure is holding steady pressure. My water temperature gauge is not overheating. My voltmeter is reading 14.1 volts. My primary and secondary air gauges are working properly. They're rising between 120 and 140 pounds of air. Now I'll check my heater and defrogger. I can check them both in that one position. The heater is blowing. The defrogger is working. Mr. Examiner, I'm now going to start my tug test. I'm going to left to right again. Since this was on the left, I'm going to release my tractor brakes. I'm going to tug against my trailer brakes. Make sure they're holding. Now I'll check the tractor brakes by releasing the trailer brakes and tugging against them to make sure it's holding. Now I'll perform a service brake test. I'll pull forward to approximately 5 miles per hour and apply my service brake. The steering wheel should not pull to the left or right. If it does, that would indicate a brake problem or possibly a suspension problem. Mr. Examiner, I'm now going to let the air build to check my governor. Somewhere between 120 to 140 pounds, the governor should engage. You'll know it's working because you're going to hear the truck make a sneezing sound. Don't rev the engine any more than 1,000 RPMs. It won't do any good. Just make it noisy in here. The governor only builds up at 1,000 RPMs. While I'm waiting for the air to build up, I'm going to go over in my head everything that I've done already. Mirror, wipers, windshield, mirror, seatbelt, gauges, turn signals, high beams, low beams, horns, defogger, flashers, primary, secondary air gauge, fire extinguisher, 3 reflective triangles, safety equipment, washers worked. Signals worked. You can say it out loud. That lets him know you're going back over it in your mind. And if you happen to mention something that you missed, he might give you credit for it at that point, or remind you, did you check that? And it'll help you say, wait, did I check that? Did I forget something? Go ahead and say it out loud, you know. You don't have to tell it to him again, but just run everything over real quick while you're waiting for the sear to build. Otherwise, this could be about the longest 2 minutes of your life if you're sitting here going, examiner sitting there waiting for that governor to build up. All it's doing is making you nervous. Keep yourself busy. Now, if the truck rolls, just barely apply left brake pressure and hold it still. Okay? You don't have to mash the brake to the floor. You don't want to use up all your air. Just hold it still. If you also notice, Shauna did her 2 lit mirrors at the same time. That's fine as long as she remembers. Like I said, I go left to right. I never break my pattern no matter what, so I do the mirror wiper, windshield mirror. You want to combine the two mirrors at the same time, that's fine, as long as you remember everything. As long as you don't skip the windshield and wipers doing that. Some people have actually done that. They do both mirrors and they forget the wiper and wash, windshield. There's my governor. Now I'm going to place the truck in first gear to simulate chalking the tires. Shut my engine off. I'm going to turn the key back on and look for my ABS light to come on and go off. Now I'm going to begin my brake test. The first thing I'm going to do is a leaks test. I'm going to hold my brake pedal down for 1 minute. I should not lose more than 4 pounds of air in 1 minute. Sir, ma'am, would you time me?
Yes. Okay.
You ask the gentleman, would you time me? He'll tell you go ahead, yes, whatever. Push the pedal to the floor and hold it. Do not release it till he says something. Otherwise, you're going to have to hold it a whole minute. If you push it down before you ask him, will you time me, you have to hold it the whole minute. So you ask him, would you time me? He'll say yes. You push it down. A few seconds later, he's going to tell you, that's fine, that's good, that's a minute, something to that effect. Then you can release the pedal. So you don't have to sit there the whole minute. Next, A, alarms. Mr. Examiner, I am now going to check my low air warning alarms. I'm going to pump the brake pedal down. At or before 60 pounds, my low air warning alarms should come on. There's my audible and visible alarm. Mr. Examiner, I will now check my buttons. I'll continue pumping the pedal down between 20 and 40 pounds. Both of these buttons should pop out, indicating my spring brakes are working properly. There's one. There's two. Mr. Examiner, this completes my in-cab inspection. Now, if I had stopped before that second button popped, automatic fail. If the key's off, there's no alarm. Automatic fail. If the engine's running, you're building pressure as you're doing this, automatic fail. So, key off, engine off, key on, ABS light, leaks, alarms, buttons. ELAB, or ALAB. ABS, leaks, alarm, button. That's the critical part. The rest of it is part of your 80%. The brake test is by itself. It's pass or fail, no percentage allowed. 100, you either get it all or nothing, okay? And like I said, I do back to front. I go left to right. That's why I did my lights, because the back to front for me is I stopped here, so I didn't get to the gauges yet. She chose to go left to right, headlights, gauges, flashers. That's fine. I don't care if you start with the defrogger and go in a circle like a tornado. Do whatever you want on the rest of this, as long as you can remember everything. Do not vary the air brakes in any way whatsoever. Like I said, she did a good job, but because she did not say the alarms will go off at or before 60, technically she would have failed. All this time she'd have failed for just forgetting to say that one thing. That's how critical the air brake test is. So, as I said, my suggestion is get out here every morning. All four of you climb in this truck together, take turns going over at least the air brake part of it. And if you mess something up, the other three tell whoever's doing it. That's not what the paper says, that's not what the video says, you done something wrong. Know this air brake better than you know your own name.
Yeah.
You want a CDL, you'll have this air brake test down to where you can do it forward, backward, sideways, and you'll know them numbers better than you know your date of birth. Any questions?